What is the best competitive game? With so many options, it may seem impossible to ultimately choose just one, but it's not. I already have, and I'll explain to you why. Let's first run through some options, and why they aren't the best, even if they are quite good. I'm not even going to consider sports in the running. They require a level of fitness that can become increasingly difficult as you age. Because of this, they aren't a competitive game that everyone can compete in and be fairly matched in. They're usually split across genders as well. And if it can't be fair in a game for basically anyone to play against anyone, there's no way that game can be considered the best competitive game. So instead, there are many highly competitive esports out there, like League of Legends, which wins the Best Esport award at the Game Awards basically every year at this point, for some reason. Nothing is better than League of Legends. I mean that literally. Doing absolutely nothing is more enjoyable than playing League of Legends. On a more serious note, the reasons it can't be a contender will be flaws it shares with other games I will mention. One of those being Overwatch. It's won some esports awards as well, but it is quite flawed of a choice for a number of reasons. The primary hindrance is that it is team-based, requiring 12 people to play a functional match, as well as making it not based on the skill of a single person, or sometimes not even the skill of each single person on a team, if the other team is just more coordinated. Because of this, let's move on to 1 versus 1 based games, and I have a few favorites I would like to talk about. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is a fun game, and a pretty good competitive experience, but I would not consider it even close to the best competitive game. It hasn't been around for that long and has stopped receiving new content, so it probably won't last much longer. And why consider a game like this when you have a game better suited for competition, and one with a long lifespan that is still going? That's right.
Super Smash Bros. Melee!
A game with 21 years and counting in lifespan, fast-paced combat fun for players and spectators alike, and endless developments of all aspects of gameplay strategies and the meta. And while it has all these things going for it, Melee has some problems as well. It is not a game you can play forever. The high amount of technical skill required will become more and more difficult over time for your hands as you age, with some players even developing wrist problems from playing the game too much. In terms of game balance, it's not great. Characters vary wildly in viability, and while this is not necessarily a problem as long as there is a set of top tiers that is fairly well balanced, the balance along those is still not perfect, albeit very good, not even having a definite best character after all of this time. So instead of a game where you choose your character, why not one where you are playing the exact same character as your opponent, with the exact same objective? I'm talking about speedrunning, or more specifically, speedrunning races, as they are what can be considered a competitive match of speedrunning. Although you are playing the same game as your opponent, there are still slight differences, such as RNG, or even in games that don't have RNG, what you're playing on can affect load times or frame drops, with variation happening even across the same console. That's not even mentioning that speedrunning goes across all kinds of different games. There's no definitive game that speedrunning races can be held in, as each game is a different speedrun, and you can't just pick up a game and know how to speedrun it because you've speedrun other games in the past. So with all these games coming up short, maybe video games aren't the best medium to search for the best competitive game in. After all, they require somewhat expensive equipment, and they've only been a thing for a relatively short amount of time. Why not search in games that have existed for a long time? Why not a game that has been around for a bit longer than video games, like Connect 4? Connect 4 is a very simple game, which isn't always a bad thing, but it hurts it in this case, because the game is completely solved. If you memorize exactly how to win, you can, assuming you go first. And Connect 4 hasn't even been around for that long, compared to some other games. Why don't we go with something that has been around for a lot longer, and something that is still a competitive game at a very high level today? Chess has been around for quite a while, yet it's not solved, and is still played at all levels today. It's very close to being the best competitive game, but despite all its strengths, chess has one fatal flaw. Somebody has to go first, which inherently gives them the advantage. It's nothing major, but this simply cannot do if we're looking for the absolute best competitive game. Now I know this has been a long intro and I've left you in suspense about what the best competitive game is, but these examples were to help provide an idea of precisely why I've decided on a single game as the best competitive game. It is not reliant on fitness, teams, it has had a very long lifespan, longer than anything else I've mentioned. It requires no expensive equipment, in fact, none at all. It's not solved, neither person goes first, and most important of all, it is perfectly balanced. Now I'm sure you're wondering how, if a single game could have all of these qualities at once, it's not talked about. Well, it is a game that we somewhat take for granted. It appears in many places, for example, at Smash tournaments, and it's a game that everyone knows how to play. The single best competitive game of all time is rock, paper, scissors. Now that might sound stupid, it's such a simple game, but its simplicity means that it doesn't have any of these flaws that the other games suffer from. Let's try to make a tier list of the 3 options the game has. So to start, we all know that rock is a top tier, as it beats scissors 100-0. Having a 100-0 matchup against a third of the cast is crazy. How could rock not be top tier? And with rock dominating the meta, scissors clearly has to be bottom tier, right? I mean, it loses to 1/3 of the cast 100% of the time. Now last we have paper to place, and it has an even matchup split, so let's put it in mid tier. But wait a second, paper beats rock 100-0, so maybe not enough thought went into putting rock in top tier. Let's move it down to mid tier. But with rock and paper in mid, scissors losing 0-100 to 1 and winning 100-0 against the other, it only makes sense that scissors would go in mid tier as well. We might as well get rid of these 2 tiers. They're only for unbalanced games anyway. This tier list doesn't seem complete though. It needs a small tweak. There is no way to order this tier, because no single option comes out on top. There we go. Perfectly balanced, as all things should be. But wait, something like a coin flip is perfectly balanced. That doesn't make it a good competitive game. The difference here is that rock, paper, scissors is not a game based off of luck. It may seem luck-based, but with enough understanding of your opponent, it isn't. The objective is to know precisely which of the 3 options your opponent will choose, and choose the one that beats it. Because of this, it relies not on luck or on physical ability, but purely on mind games and the ability to outthink your opponent. Every now and then a win could be a fluke, like if you don't know your opponent well enough yet. But that's why you can play for score. Most commonly, it's played in a best of 3, but that's just for quickly deciding things. Rock, paper, scissors is a very short game, and you could make a truly competitive match require as many wins as you want. First to 5, first to 10, even more? The possibilities are endless. And while simplicity gives rock, paper, scissors its greatest strengths, it also gives it its fatal flaw. The lack of options and dynamic events makes rock, paper, scissors lacking in its ability to be a spectator sport. Its hype factor, if you will. I'm sure most people would believe that it has no hype value, but this isn't necessarily true. Take, for example, these videos from Ludwig.
You read me like a great name in this chat! That's 0-1. He only has to win 2 more rounds to beat.
They're edited in a way to make the simple game of rock, paper, scissors exciting, and it could be exciting as a competitive game perhaps, with commentators and visual aids, such as something keeping track of the score. Was this video a joke? Good question. If you think you have a better competitive game, you're wrong, but tell me about it in the comments anyways. I'll see you in the rock, paper, scissors bracket of EVO 2023, and as always, thanks for watching.